Hey guys, I wanted to follow up on my last video about cortisol to explain a little further how it can impact your training progress and how caffeine intake specifically has an effect. Just a quick recap that cortisol is a steroid hormone that helps the body deal with stress. In that respect, it is sometimes called the stress hormone. There are essentially two kinds of cortisol increase: acute cortisol increase and chronic cortisol increase. Chronic cortisol increase is when your cortisol levels elevate and then stay high. In other words, your body is never able to adjust and let your cortisol levels come back down. That might be long periods of stress or chronic caffeine intake. Like I mentioned previously, caffeine intake will raise your cortisol levels. When cortisol is chronically high, it will tend to have adverse effects on testosterone's role in muscle building. So if you're already stressed or fatigued and use caffeine as a way to stay alert and deal with that stress, you're giving your body another excuse to keep your cortisol levels elevated, not letting testosterone do its job in terms of building muscle. Acute cortisol increases aren't so bad. Think of those increases as your body's way of dealing with short-term stress, like in the case of resistance exercise. When you train, your body becomes stressed, so cortisol levels will increase as a way to help recover and repair during your session. It also helps regulate blood sugar during exercise. Keep in mind, though, that acute increases are most prevalent during sessions that consist of high volume and short rest breaks. As you adapt to your training workloads, your body doesn't need cortisol as much, so the increases won't be as heavy. So the more your body is stressed, the greater the amount of cortisol that will be released. So I previously mentioned that caffeine will raise your cortisol levels. What is one thing a lot of people do during or before their workout? They drink caffeine, right? That might be a pre-workout mix, an energy drink, coffee, anything that adds an extra energy boost. If you're going to drink caffeine in relation to your workout, that would probably be the best time to do it. The acute response of caffeine, along with the acute stress response of your training session, will work in concert with each other. It is important, however, to avoid caffeine following your workout. If the goal is to allow your cortisol levels to decline as quickly as possible, the lingering effects from your acute cortisol increase from your workout, combined with the increase related to the caffeine, could sabotage the work you just completed. As I previously mentioned, chronic increases in cortisol could limit testosterone's influence on muscle building, and it could result in muscle atrophy. If you are using high-intensity training intervals for the sake of fat burn, that's awesome. Keep it up. But just remember that those types of workouts will elevate your cortisol more than sessions with longer rest breaks. So it's a good idea to limit or avoid caffeine completely immediately following your training sessions. So here's a quick recap. Cortisol is typically at its highest in the morning and declines throughout the day. Caffeine increases cortisol levels, especially during times of high stress. Acute cortisol increases are great for your body in dealing with stress and flight or flight moments. Chronic cortisol increases can lead to excess glycogen stores, leading to weight gain. It can also lead to increased glucose levels, anxiety and depression, and muscle atrophy. With that in mind, here are some recommendations on helping control your cortisol levels. Avoid overtraining and fatigue. Consume enough calories from non-processed foods to prevent depletion. Get 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night to decrease stress and cortisol release. Consume carbohydrates and protein after training, preferably from non-caffeinated sources. Regularly participate in stress-relieving activity. Avoid excessive amounts of increased aerobic endurance training, unless, of course, you're training for an endurance event. You see, aerobic endurance training is linked with protein loss from muscle, inducing a higher cortisol response. Again, this isn't going to be hardcore black and white for everyone. Do what you love, and if you have a trainer or coach, trust what they are coaching you up to do. This is just a reminder that there is more to training and fitness and wellness than programming and nutrition. If you're struggling and not where you want to be, consider that cortisol might be a factor. Don't get discouraged, keep working hard, and remember that fitness and wellness are a package deal. If you have any questions or topics that you would like me to discuss, send me an email or leave them in the comments. Until next time, stay well.